Hey. Hello, hello, hello. Good evening. Good to see you guys. Good to see you. I still have my workout clothes on. I have not changed since this morning. That's how crazy busy it is. But I have about 15 minutes, so I thought I would jump on and take your questions and share on this topic as I promised I would yesterday. So we are in a season where coaching, mentoring is kind of like a buzzword. And oftentimes a lot of people don't know what the difference of those two are. They don't know what they need and so on and so forth. So I just wanted to kind of bring some clarity. Hey, good afternoon. Good to see you. Concerning those three topics from my perspective, from my research and my reading and studying. Good to see you guys all. All right. So oftentimes I get this question all the time. The first one is really concerning the difference between a mentor and a coach, right? And in simplest explanation, or in the simplest way to give clarity to that, is a mentor is someone who you recognize carry something in them that you need. So therefore, you approach them for the purpose of gleaning from what they carry so that it can impact your life. So what a mentor does is they take what is in them and they pour it into you so that you can go to the next level, whether it be spiritually, whether it be a business mentor, whether it be a art mentor, whatever kind of mentor it is. There's a recognition. You have a recognition of what they're carrying, and then they make an agreement to teach you and release the experience and the wisdom that they've had in that particular area and pour it into you. That's essentially what a mentor does. As I shared a little bit yesterday, mentoring historically has been just kind of, something that you do for free. It's not something that you really, in history, you just don't charge for. But it's something that people usually had one or two people that they would mentor and they would pour into people. Now, the thing is, mentoring right now, I think, is very much kind of being, what's the word? We look at discipleship and mentoring as the same thing, right? We look at discipleship and mentoring as the same thing. And literally it is, but when we're talking about discipleship, is that we're making fishers of men. We're making men and women who are becoming more like Jesus Christ. So in mentoring, you can be mentored in anything, but when we talk about discipling, it's very intentional that you are discipling this person and becoming more like Jesus. You're discipling this person in walking stronger in the things of the Lord. Now, you could have a spiritual mentor. Now, one of the things that I would really encourage is that if you're going to have a spiritual mentor, that you are very specific about what you need from that spiritual mentor, because oftentimes people go to a mentor and they don't even have clarity about what they need. They just feel like they need a mentor. But mentors should hit specific areas in your life. If you need somebody who's hitting every single area in your life, that's when you bring in the spiritual parent equation. So I'll touch on that in a moment. Who has something that you want and you have approached them so that they could pour that into you and that they can help stretch you, that they can help you push you to the next level. Now, this is the thing. I saw someone said they need a mentor. This has nothing to necessarily do with you, but a lot of people say they need mentors, but they're not really ready for a mentor. It's the same thing even with a coach, even with spiritual parents. There's a level of follow through. There's a level of consistency. There's a level of not giving up. So it's not just like, hey, this person, and people, I see this all the time. This person is supposed to be taking care of me and doing what I need them to be. No, it's the total opposite. You're going to that person specifically for what they have so that they can pour it out in them. So that you have to be ready to be consistent and to really be mentored to the point that it's going to make a change in your life. Now, can you adopt a mentee? Sure. I mean, you can adopt them, but I don't know why you would really, when we're talking about adopting, that would be more spiritual to me. Mentees stay with you, some for a lifetime, some for a season. But they're there specifically for a particular skill or trade or craft or thing. I mentor people a lot in the prophetic. I mentor people in ministry. I mentor people in business, but not all of them stay with me forever. I mentor them. I sharpen them. I get them out in the area that they need to be gotten out in, and they go. And so that's what mentoring looks like. Coaching. When coaching is literally the same thing that it is in the world. I don't know why. Yeah, I charge for my mentees. There's a charge, especially because they're investing in, you are releasing a lot of time, you're releasing a lot of energy. And so some mentees just naturally give, and that's not a big problem. But I realized that in order for me to be most effective, I needed to filter those people that I was mentoring. So one of the ways that we do that is an application. Some of you guys, we opened up our mentoring program. We've already gotten several emails requesting the application. We do the application. We do an interview because we want to make sure that we're the right match, because someone may look like they're going to be a good match for you, but it may not necessarily be the best match. Once we do that, we take this, it's a job. This mentoring for us is not just like, hey, this is a good idea. I have a team of 4 other mentors that mentor as well. And so we go into that. All right, now for coaching. Coaches are people who you go to sharpen something that you already have. So when you're going to a coach, you're saying it's like a girl who's has a potential of being a great gymnast. When they come to the coach, they already can probably do some flips, but they need technique, they need sharpening, they need instruction, they need clarity on how to do that. And so usually a coach, just like you would go to a vocal coach to strengthen your singing, your ability to do it better, coaching is what that does. So when you come to a coach, you're coming for strengthening, you're coming for clarity, you're coming for, this is not just I'm building you up and encouraging you. When people come to me for coaching, especially business coaching, we're getting down to business. We're going to figure out the steps that need to be done. We're going to figure out how to get you from point A to point B. Coaches anywhere take people that have potential and really bring them to the next level. So that's the thing about coaching. Mentoring, someone is taking something that is in them and pouring it in you. Coaching, the coach is taking what you have inside you and magnifying it, intensifying it, and causing it to be what it needs to be. So that's what coaching looks like. Spiritual parents, okay? Spiritual parents, this is more of, it's a covenant. Whereas mentoring and coaching, you go to that person, you see if you're a good match, that help sharpen you, that help build you in a particular area. When you're going to someone as a spiritual mother or father, this is saying that not only do I just have one particular area that I want you to help groom, or a particular area that I want you to pour out in. When you say someone's a spiritual mother or father, you're saying that, hey, I'm submitting my life to you. I agree that you carry the presence of God, and I believe that you can help me self-actualize or become who God has called me to become in every part of in every part of my life. So when you're talking about spiritual parenting, this is the next level. This has to do with a responsibility. So mentors, they'll mentor you, but they don't really have necessarily a responsibility to your development or to your overall functioning. When you're talking about a spiritual parent, you're saying, I'm giving you the right to be able to speak into my life, to be able to encourage me, to be able to correct me, to be able to say, it's okay, I think you can date this person. No, I don't think this person is right for you, because I trust that you have God in you. I trust that you know my calling. That's the other thing. I trust that you know my calling and that I can propel you. And I've had people who say, hey, you're my spiritual mom, but I also have to know that from the Lord. So is your mom one of your mentors? No. They can be. You can have spiritual moms and dads that mentor you, but they're going to do a lot more discipling. They're going to do a lot more molding and shifting. So they're not just going to focus on one thing, but they can. Spiritual parents can mentor you, but how you relate to them is what you're going to receive from them. So if you relate to them as a mentor, you're going to get the mentor. If you relate to them as a spiritual parent, you're going to get the spiritual parent. Okay. What was the other thing I was going to say? I don't know. My mind went blank for a minute there with that question, but I'll take a couple questions. Can you have one of each at the same time? Yeah. People have spiritual parents who maybe pastor a huge church and can't really meet with them every week, but there's somebody in that church that is carrying a particular thing that they need. And so they meet with that mentor to help sharpen them. But their overall responsibility for their spiritual life and spiritual development is their spiritual parent or their spiritual pastor. What about a midwife? A midwife is simply just someone who comes along someone when they're having a baby. Midwives are seasonal. They're not someone that walks with people for a long time. They're literally there. I mean, you only need a midwife probably the last 3 months of pregnancy to help you push something out and maybe learn how to take care of the baby, teach you how to take care of the baby, and then that's it. So some people just come to help push and get you ready, and that's it. What do you do if someone labels you as such and you find that they don't understand the difference? Yeah, so it's your job to let them know. It's your job to be clear about who you are. Now, when we talk about spiritual parenting, like, I will never approach someone and say, I'm your spiritual mother. While the Lord may show me or anything like that, I always leave it up to them to begin to get that recognition and understand and have that wisdom. Some people, it has taken years for them to get it, but they eventually get it because we want to avoid manipulation and so and so. But if someone is coming to you and saying, hey, you're my coach or you're my mentor, all these things require discussion, whether it's mentoring, coaching, or spiritual parenting. There needs to be an agreement, because if there's not a discussion and agreement, then expectations are not met, and then there's disappointments. So if someone is approaching you in the wrong as a mentor, but you're a coach, whatever, it's your job to clarify that. Okay. Is your mother one of the mentors in the program? Yes. Sorry, I thought you were asking, is my spiritual mother my mentor? Yes. So we have 4 other mentors. It looks like we're going to have an on-slew of applications. I'm only taking 10, but I have 4 other women that I've helped develop, and in my mom's case has helped develop me, that also mentor people. So yes. All right. Bring on the questions. I'll take a couple questions, then I'll finish cooking dinner. Will God isolate you by yourself for a season just to teach you himself? Yes, you'll have seasons where the Holy Spirit is grooming you, where no one understands you and is perfecting you. As spiritual parents divinely chosen by God, can one opt out? No, spiritual parents are chosen by you. You look for people who carry what they, let me say it this way, right? God will tell you when someone is your spiritual parent. One of the ways that you know, and I've written a blog on this, you can check it out, is what is in them resonates with what is in you. They're carrying a similar vision, so they've been where you're going. They also have this is the other thing, they need to have the time to be your spiritual parent. Like, you can't say TD Jakes is my spiritual parent and they don't even know who you are. So you can have people that have fed you, right? So one of my favorite people is Heidi Baker. I've only spent 2-3 meetings with her face to face, but she's fed me and shaped my ministry. I wouldn't call her my spiritual mama like that because, well, she knows me and she knows my name, but there's some other people that may not necessarily know you. A spiritual mother or father should know you. They should know your name. You should be able to call them once a month or once every 2-3 months. They should know what's going on in your life. So it can't be somebody who's off. Those people that are pouring into you, that are spiritual leaders that you have no connection to, are more likely like mentors. And spiritual, there can be spiritual mamas and papas in the faith that help develop you in the faith, but not necessarily your personal development. Someone asked, do I have coaching classes? I coach people individually, and I do a course in the spring on how to launch a mentoring and coaching class. But for those who don't know who I am, I have a business called Ask Dr.Faith where I do coaching, counseling, premarital counseling, inner healing counseling. Oh, sorry, I missed your questions. If you just put them back up. I was talking. This is, yes, so you choose them. You lean on the Holy Spirit, you choose them, and you approach them. If someone comes to you and says, you're my spiritual daughter or spiritual son, really pray about that, because sometimes that leads to control. So you need to think about that. What is the appropriate way to leave a church? This is how I coach people in this. Make sure that you have approached your leaders about why you need to leave, right? So if you have issues with the church, reach out to people so that you can discuss those issues. It's not fair to just pick up and leave because you had issues and no one knew that you had issues, okay? Someone's asking about the mentor applications. You email admin@askdrfaith.com. And I think we need to put it on the website. You email admin@askdrfaith.com. So if you have issues with that church, first of all, you need to address it with someone, right? But if you've tried to address it, nobody has gotten back to you, they don't have meetings, then you leave that in the hands of the Lord. But you need to at least have tried to address it first, and try to meet with the people. Don't just get up and leave, right? Also, just because you have issues with the church doesn't mean you're supposed to leave. And doctor is spelled out DOCTORF. So just because you have issues doesn't mean you have to leave. But that's why it'd be good to have a mentor, someone in the church, if you can't meet with the pastors, to say, hey, I need help growing in this area, or this is what I'm struggling with, so you can get information. Once you've reached out to them, nothing is changing, they're not doing anything about it, you feel like you've done what you needed to do, it's not necessarily your issue, then I would schedule a meeting. If they can't meet with you again, I always tell people, write a letter, explain what has happened, but always start with the things that did well. Always bless them for what they have done. Thank you for putting up my the admin@askdrfaith.com email. What they have done well, bless them, and then let them know where you're going. Okay. Someone asked, am I taking applications for coaching clients or mentoring? So I'm always taking coaching clients. That's through my business, AskDrFaith.com. The mentoring program is a part of my ministry. Warring Ministries is my ministry, and Destiny Mentoring is part of that. So I'm only taking applications for the mentoring. Okay. Any other questions? Coaching, mentoring, spiritual parenting. What if you have no church or family that understands your calling and are often jealous and misled? You need to go to a different city where you can find a church. There's always something that you can do. You're not going to be in a season of wilderness for years. So I always say, go where God is. So find where God is and get there. That your hunger should drive you to get to that place. If people are jealous of you or whatever, we all go through that. You need to learn how to deal with that as part of your spiritual maturity. If your spiritual guardian, mentor, and you break off, was it really God ordained? Yes, because not every spiritual parent is going to be in your life all the time. Just as mentors and coaches, sometimes they're in your life for a season. As a spiritual mama, of course, I would love to have everybody as a son or a daughter forever, but there are seasons when God releases people and sends them to different places, or they get married and they come under a new leadership. When my daughters get married or my sons get married, I would rather them be submitted under the same leadership. So spiritual parenting is not something that has it can expire. You can outgrow someone. You can get to a point where you have just learned all that you can learn, and it's time for you to go to somewhere else. Now, but if you're doing this every 2 weeks, you're doing this every year, the issue is probably much bigger than the leaders. The issue is probably you. You should have some longevity in your spiritual parents. I have no spiritual parents, and it hurts. You just need to pray. And oftentimes, guys, when we talk about spiritual parents, these are not just pastors. These could be elders in your church. This could be a woman who doesn't necessarily do anything in the church, but she carries a deep well of God. Some of my spiritual mothers were not leaders in the church, but they carried God even greater than those with the anointing. So don't get stuck and think my spiritual mother or father has to be a pastor. Your spiritual mother or father needs to be someone who can walk with God and has been where you're going. Okay. What if no one can actually tell if you leave your church? Do you still have to speak with someone? Yes, because you're honorable. Just because they're dishonorable doesn't mean you should be dishonorable. Because you're honorable, you send in the letter, let them know what you're doing, and go from there. Okay, we do the correct things because we are wise, not because it's expected of us. Is it okay just to leave a church when God reveals corruption of the pastor and leaders? No, because He may be revealing it so that you can be praying, so that you can pray that things shift. You need to ask why the Lord is revealing that to you, and then go from there. If the church is abusive, if it's controlling or manipulation, then yes, if you're hurt, if you're losing your finances, if you're emotionally being abused, you need to get out of there. My church is Legacy Center Church in Raleigh, North Carolina. I pastor it with my husband. Our website for our church is legacycenterchurch.org. Are you in danger if you don't have a church home or covering? I wouldn't say you're in danger, right? But I believe that the Lord calls us to be in a family. The kingdom of God is a family. We're all called to have mothers and fathers. We're all called to have big brothers and big sisters. And we're also called to have little brothers and little sisters that we can pour into, that we can minister to, that we can help develop and raise up. So the problem is that the churches are not families. With our own issues that humans have, we've corrupted the idea of what church should look like. And so you should always be in a family. If you're in a season where you've left a church, you should be praying and asking the Lord where your family is. People like to use the word tribe. That's having similar DNA and all that stuff. I believe that every believer should have that, especially if they are in leadership or they're called in leadership. Now, I was before I started pastoring, I was an itinerant minister. I was always part of the church, but I wasn't always at the church on Sunday because I was traveling and teaching. However, I always had spiritual parents. So these weren't necessarily people that I saw every week or every month, but they knew what I was doing. They could correct me and so on and so forth. So if you're an itinerant, you need to have accountability, but you don't necessarily have to be in one church if you're in a season where you're not able to be. Okay. And I'm sure other people would disagree with me, but y'all are asking me the questions. How do you know if you're just dealing with rejection or you need to be in a different church? Well, you need to figure out why you're leaving. So if all of a sudden someone didn't talk to you or didn't do something and it makes you feel isolated and you don't want to be there anymore, then it's rejection. But if you, prior to them doing anything to you, you weren't being fed, you weren't being challenged, you weren't growing in the gifts, you weren't becoming more holy, then it might be more of you're not being developed. But if it's because someone did something or did not do something, then you're operating out of a spirit of rejection and responding from a place of rejection. So that's what you need to ask yourself. All right, I'll take 2 more questions. I know I saw some come up and they left. Okay. What if you have trust issues? You need to get healed from them. Sign up for an inner healing session. You can email us. Does the spiritual parents have to be from your church you attend? All right, this is where it gets a little tricky sometimes. If you attend a church and you're in leadership and you're serving there, it would be really, really great if your pastors were your spiritual parents. However, sometimes the Lord calls you somewhere to serve and to help, but those people are not really, they don't have the capacity to be able to develop you, but out of honor or out of obedience of the Lord, you're called to be in that house. And those are the only times that I really see that you could have spiritual parents or spiritual leaders outside of your house. But it should, in a perfect world, they should be the people that you're submitted to, and that are leading you. And the only time that really happens is if those pastors are not able to understand who you are and where you're going. I'll be there soon for good. Good. We can't wait to have you at Legacy Center for good. Okay, pastors and leaders jealous of your calling, get under a leader who's not, because there's lots of them who are not. Most people, leaders that are jealous of your calling, are usually struggling with identity stuff, or they're struggling with insecurities. Now, you also need to make sure that you are perceiving the situation correctly. So just because they tell you not to teach right now, or they don't permit you to speak, not speak like you can't talk, but, get your own ministry, that doesn't mean they're necessarily jealous. It could be that they don't feel like you're ready, or they want to fine tune you in other areas. So the presentation of what that jealousy looks like needs to be very, very clear. Okay. Can you have more than one spiritual parent? You can. I mean, there've been seasons where I had a spiritual mom and a spiritual dad, but you'll get confused after a while, because this is a person that you're submitted to. They're speaking into your life. So really, it should be really 1 or 2 at the most. If you have 4 or 5 spiritual parents, I don't know what's going on there. You need to figure out what's going on with that. Okay? So too many, you're going to get confused. It's going to be hard to follow the leading of whoever. That's why I said if you're submitted to a pastor in a church and you say that's your pastor, but then you also want to have spiritual parents outside of the church, you're going to come to a place where there's a discrepancy. All right. God ordained if no connection or compatible misunderstanding between the spiritual guardian and mentor. Okay. If there's misunderstandings, that's normal. That's life. You're dealing with 2 people. When you are in a mentoring, coaching, spiritual parenting role, you have, you're going to have differences. You're going to have arguments. You're going to see things differently. Now, there should be a level of honor. There should be a level of respect. But just because you had a difference doesn't mean it's not the Lord. That's like getting married and saying, I argued with my husband, so it's not God. Or my husband, said something hurtful, so I'm leaving. No. That's, you work it out if you really believe that it's the Lord. And then sometimes, like I said, if it gets manipulative, if it gets controlling, if it gets abusive, then you need to get out of there. All right. Bless you guys. I got to go cook for my family. The food is already cooking. We're going to get ready to eat. Can you make a video on when it's time to leave a church? I've already done that, but I'll do it again. So probably sometimes in the spring, you can go and check it out at on my YouTube videos. What does it mean when multiple leaders want to adopt you? That means that you are pretty much very anointed, that you carry something in you and everybody sees it and they want you under their leadership. And that's why you need to be very careful. That used to happen to me all the time. Everybody would want to drag me into their leadership. But you need to choose based on where they're going, what they're carrying, and how they can propel you to the next place. But people that are anointed or gifted, that happens all the time. You like attract all kinds of leaders, all kinds of prophets saying that you're their spiritual child, and you need to really be careful of that. All right. Are you going to have any more counseling classes? So on Thursday, I start my class on deliverance or diagnosis. I'm not sure what you mean by counseling classes. However, I do a lot of teaching on inner healing, deliverance. All of February, we're doing relationship classes on how to prepare for your mate, how to fine-tune your marriage, on how to recover from heartbreak and divorce. So most of my classes are a mixture of psychology, inner healing, and deliverance. And then we do some classes in the spring on spiritual gifts, on spiritual warfare. So when do you not contact former church that you left? When? I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't unless you left really bad. But sometimes there's no need to. So I would have to know the situation. You can find all my periscopes on YouTube. I ministered. Okay. All right. Bless you guys. I gotta go. We'll chat later. Oh, are spiritual parents required? No. But most people that are called into ministry well, let me not say no, right? Because your pastors should be your spiritual parents. So pastors should be your spiritual parents. They should be able to know your destiny. They should be able to speak into you. And if it's not necessarily them, the leadership around them. So yes, we should have people that we have submitted ourselves to, that we trust, that can help disciple us and get us to where God is calling us. So everybody should have spiritual parents. Everybody should have pastors that they're called to and they're submitted to. So yes, why I said no at first is because a lot of times people want a spiritual parent, but they don't have the languaging of why they want them. So you need to make sure that if you already have pastors that love you, you have a church that is growing you up, you don't go outside seeking all these other people to be your spiritual parents when you have what you need in your church. How do you know if it's the right time to leave your church? I'll do a periscope on that. That's the second time people have asked. So that's why I said that. But it's important for every person to have someone they trust, someone they can lay their heart to, someone that will help them develop and propel them forward. So I will end on that note. I know this is a big topic for people, so we'll definitely chat about it next time. And I will not be in my workout outfit, so I'll look a little bit better for y'all. All right. Bless you. For those that are interested in the mentoring, it's admin@askdrfaith.com. You'll fill out an application, then we'll do an interview, and then we'll let you know if we can take you or not. And we'll explain why not, or if we're going to pair you with the other 4 people. Bless you guys. Bye-bye.